Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today is the 10th lecture of DDCDP 23. We will cover some of the leftover things from the previous lecture about grid CSS, and then we will study what CSS variables are. They are also called custom properties and calc attribute. We also study CSS transform property and especially transform X and Y. Let's start. I will create a new file, call it grid2.html. Sorry. We already have installed Firefox, so there are some additional or maybe more elaborative functionalities in Firefox. While you are developing, it is advisable to use Firefox as well, and even in your careers, if there is something very hard to debug in Chrome, you will be able to find those bugs in Firefox and vice versa. So if there are times when you are not able to find problems or errors in your designs, you can use both the browsers interchangeably. For grid CSS, we are going to use Firefox today, so that even it will help you understand what grid CSS does, and you will have strong foundation of how grid CSS works. So for now, let us create 2 column and 2 rows grid in our HTML. One of the shortcuts is, if you type div.wrapper, what will it create? A wrapper with a class of wrapper. Now I want, for example, 4 divs of class item. So what I can do is div.item cross 4. So it will create 4 divs, and I can give some classes also, like A, B, C and D. A, B, C and D. Now I want to create a grid of 2 rows and 2 columns. So what I will do, first let us introduce the style tag dot wrapper display grid grid dash template dash rows. It is going to be, say, 60 pixel, and I want the rows to be 60 pixels as well. Grid template rows 60 pixel. Okay. Sorry. Now I had in initial lecture I had told you that these columns or rows won't be visible or with any background color, or they are sort of imaginary. They are not imaginary, but you can make them in your minds you can take them as imaginary, because you cannot give backgrounds colors to these grid columns. But Firefox does a very good job in letting us know what the column sizes are, what columns are, what rows are. So I will now just display this in the Firefox browser. The same A, B, C, D. Let me just zoom them in. Okay, why are we not able to see any color? Because we haven't given any background color to these boxes, but they are actually in a grid. So if I inspect, just like Chrome, we have inspector for Firefox also, and if I zoom it in so that you can be able to see it, you can see Firefox lets you display what the nature of the div. This is grid actually. So if I click on grid, it will, if I click on grid, so let's us surround it with lines which are actually grids. So this is 1 2 3 4, right? If I come to the line to the right, I can even change the color of the lines and display area names also. So for example, I want something to be in this one, so the line is these are line numbers 1 2 3 4, the column numbers.
Yes.
And how do you specify display area names? We haven't specified any area names right now. So for do you know how to specify area the line names?
Yes, so 1 2 3 on the left.
So for example, I want this one, the first one, to be 1, so I will call it 1, and the second one is 2, 1 2. This Firefox, this is Chrome, sorry. I'm doing it in column section. Okay, this is for area names, not the line names. Okay, so we will leave them as they are at the moment. And for example, I want to fill this D, this cell. So what I will do is, we will call give grid
Grid column.
grid dash template dash areas. How to specify them? Anybody? So for example, left, right, these are two column names. And we can wrap them in quotes. If there are more than 2 rows, so we can move them to the second line as well, like this. For example, left to right to. Is this fine? Okay. Now if I refresh it in Firefox, what do you see? Left to right to. Okay, so what we have done is we have created a 2x2 grid system. The rows are 60 pixels and the columns also are 60 pixels. What does this mean? This is the name of line 1, this is the name of line 2, and this is the name of line 3. And these are grid template areas. We can specify cells as the areas. So this is, if this is 2 column layout, we should have 2 names here. So for example, this is left, this is right, means the left column area grid is known as left, the right one is right. The second row starts with a column of left 2 and right 2. So these actually are the names of the cells. Then I want, for example, this C to appear in grid area of right. Right is this one. So if I now open it in the browser, and more specifically the Firefox browser, so C now is, we'll open it in Firefox also. C now is here. Is this right? This is this easy to understand? Now if I inspect the grid in Firefox, I click on the grid, so it will show me the lines. And these lines are just imaginary lines, and the names of the cells are left, right, this. Actually the whole purpose of this showing you this in Firefox is that we need to study a property in from the last lecture, which we didn't actually cover. Now I want, for example, something here, and E, we should go here. For example, in this, if there is a box here, I want to move it here, another item. When should that take effect? Right now we have 4 boxes, 4 cells and 4 divs. We have 4 divs and 4 items, we can call them, and 4 cells also, 2 rows and 2 columns. These are 4 cells and 4 items, so they are exactly in the right spots. All the items are inside the right cells. But if I increase the number of this one, for example this E, I will add one more. So since the items are now more than the cells, it will be placed according to some algorithm at some place. So if I, for example, I refresh the page, it is here, the third one, and if I give it a background color of say .e background dash color blue, for example, E. This one is the shorter than the 2 rows. Why? Anybody?
Because it's just inline element. E is just an element,
Yeah.
which is out of the grid.
Yes, but if I haven't even specified, for example, this D or C or B or the sizes or the heights of these, but they are stretching fully, like this one.
Because we specify 4 columns and rows.
Yeah.
2 columns and
So this one is automatic, or we can call it implicit. So it will be up to the content it is in. It won't stretch up to the height of the cell. If we haven't specified the cell size, then it will actually be up to its content, inline content we can call it, or anything. So now the cell height is this. If we inspect it in Firefox, so you can see 2 extra cells have been created automatically. We haven't asked CSS to create those for us, but if the number of items are more than the columns and the rows, you have specified an automatic number of grid cells are created, and the size of it actually is up to the size of the element. You should know that this is the automatic or implicit grid system. Okay?
These are implicit.
Implicit means sort of automatic, we can call it. We haven't specified the sizes yet. So there is a property which we can use, and I, for example, want to use this E here, what do you expect, Shabas? I had briefly touched it in the previous lecture also, but since we are now using CSS Grid inside the Firefox, we can better understand it. So this is line 1, 2, 3, and I want to specify the start of the grid to from 3 to 4. So E will be grid dash column. It will start from 3 and stretch to 4, something like this. Is this fine?
Yes.
If I open it again in Firefox, so it has created an automatic grid which stretches the whole width of the container. Now we have 3 cells above and 3 cells below. Is this fine?
Yes.
So you can inspect the behavior of the grid for implicit grids in Firefox like this. Now I want it to be exactly like this also, the 60. We have specified the columns as 60 pixels, right? So we have to specify one more property, which is grid auto columns. Grid auto columns. So columns. This property actually, grid auto columns. I want it to be 60 pixels also. What? I want grid auto columns to be 60 pixels also. So basically I am saying that if there are implicit columns, they should also be of 60 columns. So any new columns now, if they are implicit, they will be of 60 pixels. Is this right?
Yes.
So if I refresh it now, so now even this one is 60 pixels. Any new ones now will be 60 pixels without specifying. This is what grid auto columns do. Is this okay?
Yes.
So for example, I have added one more div, which is F. And let me just copy this so that we can save some time. F. The background should be, say, this one. I want it to be from 4 to 5, for example. So what do you expect the width of the column? 60 pixels, just because of this property. Okay. So now we have one more column which is 60 pixels. And why are there these two boxes? B and C now are here.
Because we haven't specified any area.
Exactly, for these any cells for these items, they will automatically adjust themselves in the empty cells. Okay, one more thing, we only created these two. I mean, we specified just this one and this one, but there are two more columns above them also. Why is it so? I mean, I have created only 3, 4 and 4, 5, yes. Not these two. If we go here, inspect it, this one and this one.
It is by default.
Yeah, by default, but why? We created only these two. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
We only created these two, but these two have been created automatically. I had in our first lecture for grid systems, I had told you that always rows will have the same number of columns. Remember. So this cannot happen that only we will have 2 columns in the second row, but those 2 columns won't be there in the first row. So if you create columns in the second row or even the first rows, automatically the same number of columns will be created in the second row also. So the columns number in all the rows should be the same, and that's the behavior of grid system. Even if you create columns in one row, other rows will also create those columns, but the numbers only will be different. Is it right?
Yes.
Correct? So this is the finding from this, that this value grid dash column, this grid auto columns 60 pixels. This means that if any new implicit number of columns have to be created, they have to be of this size. And if you go back to this code, we have only specified, we have only specified 2 columns, okay, but we now have actually 4 columns, and those columns have come by these values. Okay, so this is one of the ways of adding columns. One more thing, if for example I want these columns to be in the rows, not the columns, just like initially we added it. So it was grid dash row. It will be from 3 to 4, and this one is grid dash column 4 to 5. So where will those cells now be, Shabas? In the bottom of the section, this one. Okay, let me move F also, grid dash row. Now we only wanted these two to be in the rows, not the columns. So we have specified grid dash row from 3 to 4 is there has to be at 3 to 4, and the F1 should be from 4 to 5. So this is what it is doing. If I open it in, so it has added 2 extra rows. The E1 is here and the F1 is here because we have specified it to be like this. So
it is taking the column width. It is because we specify it through auto property.
No.
60 pixels.
No, it has created a column for us automatically if you add a new row.
Okay.
So that same number of columns will be there, just like any other row. So it will stretch automatically to that number of columns, right? But the height of the row is different than this one. Why, Shabas? The same problem which we studied in columns. Exactly. So for this there is a property, and you may guess it well. It is grid, just like we have grid auto columns. This is grid dash auto dash rows. So it is also going to be 60 pixels, for example. So with this change, if you refresh it, you see now the row height is also. So if now any new number of rows will be of this height. If we add it to columns, let us add one more and add it to this column, for example, here. And remember, if you add a new column to any row, all the rows will be updated accordingly. It will have a new column also. All the rows will have equal number of columns. So for example, we add one more G J and background dash colors is red, for example. Okay, let us try something else. Grid dash column. If we come to Firefox, this is line 1, line 2, line 3. So let us assume this is line 4, 5, 6, 7. So from 7 to 8, for example, from 7 to 8 we want to have a cell from 7 to 8. So what we will do? 7 to 8. Now what do you expect? With this property, what do you expect?
We will have 7 columns.
Exactly. We are just placing G on from 7 to 8 lines, but in between, because we only have 3 lines, from 3 to 8 we will have different cells created automatically, and all of them will be of 60 pixels. So if you refresh it, here you go. These cells, this, all of them have been automatically created, right? And they will be in all the rows. So this is known as implicit grid, and it is in the G is inside here. For example, if I click on the grid, so we have it from if I want to move it to this one, for example, here or this one, so what will I do?
Grid rows 4 by 5, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And even you may not be able to see it on the multimedia screen, but here you can in the Is this clear? So let us make the grid shorter. We will make it, for example, 5 to 6, and in rows, and grid dash column, grid dash rows 5 to 6 also. So here it is now. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay. Is all of this clear? Okay, now we will create a one more grid file. And we'll create, say, 4 items. This is for a responsive grid in grid CSS. Okay, so we are creating 4 items. Div dot item dot a cross 4. So these are 4 items. We'll just quickly change A, B, C and D. This is fine. We'll now create a style sheet locally, and then let item be say background red and text white. Okay, dot wrapper is going to be display grid. Okay, I want to have 4 equal number of 4 equal size columns. So what I will do, grid dash template dash columns. So we can specify, for example, 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel. What will this do? All of 200 sizes. But if we have to such repetition, so we can do repeat column 4 times and 2 pixels. So this is exactly the same like that. This is fine.
Yes, sir.
But it will have, for example, if the container width is, let us practice it, 1200 pixel, and the background color is yellow, margin 0 auto means to center it, right? And let us open it in the browser. Okay, why are they not showing up? Because we haven't specified any heights or any content inside them. So for now, let us add a, or let us make it paragraphs with text. Is this fine? So these are 4 columns, and the width of the container is more than the whole width of the columns. That's why we are able to see the yellow also. Okay, now I want to have some gap in it so that we can have some space between the two. So the gap is going to be, say, 20 pixel. Is this fine? So now we have gap of this. But if you try to reduce the size of the window, it is not moving to the second line. Why? Yeah, and there is even the horizontal cursor, so scroller, sorry. So if there is horizontal scroller in design, it means your designs are not good enough for responsive designs. There are issues in it. So what we can do is, and we also want this space to be equally distributed. So any free space, now the width of the container is 1200 pixels, and the margins are, the gap is 20 pixels, 20, 20, 20, 80, sorry, 60. 60, the actual width of the container is 1200 minus 60, it means 1140. So 1140 needs to be equally distributed among these 4 columns, so that the widths of they are exactly 1140 once added. So what we can do is, rather than fixed width sizes, we can use FR, 1 FR, 1 fraction. It means that repeat 1 fraction 4 times. Now all the free space has been distributed equally between the 4 among the 4 columns. Is it right?
Yes.
And if I now reduce the size, it still is so, but at least the size has been equally distributed. Now the next thing is okay, it is still not adaptive or responsive. So what we can do is, we can let us remove this width for now, and if I refresh the page, now the whole browser width is taken like this, but now it is shrinking. It is not, looking good at all. On some widths it should be 2 columns, on some widths it should be 1 column, and so on. So what we can do is, we can make it responsive by media queries. So let us try this. Here at media, min dash width, say let us make it 480 pixels, or max width 480 pixels. So up to 480 pixels, what we want to do is, we want to have why is this so? What is missing here?
given us, then assign
yeah. So dot wrapper up to we want it to have grid dash template columns. One FR, just one FR. We are not repeating it, but we are just one FR means 100%. Okay, so it is on. So up to 480 it will be one FR, and then it again becomes 4. The next step is, if for example we will just repeat this up to say 1020, we want it to be say 2 FR. So what do you expect? Yeah, but it has to be repeated because we want it to be in 2 columns. So we will just exactly copy this one, and now it's 2 column. Up to 820 it will be. Okay, can anybody tell me why is it even again 2 columns up to in the mobile section as well?
Because the tab portion go right. It's
Shabas. Because
we haven't
this
specified the min width.
exactly. So this one is being overridden by this. What we can do is, there are 2 ways to it. We can move it above this, for example. So probably it will be okay. Or we can specify minimum widths.
Yes.
Okay. The next step is, say we want to make it 4 columns on larger screen. So one of the ways is we can specify minimum width, like minimum width say 1600 pixels. We want it to be 4. We want it to be 4 columns minimum width. So if it reaches minimum width of 1600 or maybe minimum width of say for example 1200, we want it to be always 400 or 4 columns. So let us now try it. It's 4. It's stacking on the mobile, then it becomes 2 columns, and then when it reaches 1200 it becomes 4, and then on larger screen it will be like this. Is this fine?
Yes.
So it is kind of responsive, but this is a lot of work. For Grid CSS we have some magical properties also. So I will undo all of this. These are redundant, these are extra, we just had to go through a lot of it. So I will delete these media queries again, and we will change this grid template columns. We'll make it repeat, this is fine, but it will be auto dash fit property, and then we have a function called min max. Here we'll specify the minimum width of the column so that it doesn't shrink very much. So minimum width is for example 250 pixels and 1 FR. Okay, let me explain it. We want to repeat auto fit, and the column width should never be less than 250 pixels. I mean, if we don't specify it, then it will be it will shrink unexpectedly more than what we expect actually, and it should be 1 FR means it should occupy the available space 100%, for example. But the size, this is very tricky. If you don't specify it, so it will take 100% of the width. Now if I all of that is now automatic. The same behavior which was previously done with media queries, if you refresh it, if it has space available, it will take it. If it doesn't, it will just like flex, it will wrap to the second line. And again, if it has space, it's okay, but then it will according to it's the screen size, it will adjust itself without media queries. Is this fine? So you should make use of these so that it is easier for you to create grids like these. Repeat, auto fit, min max 250 pixels and 1 FR. Now let us inspect it in Firefox a bit. Actually, what is happening? So if I click on the grid again, it will show me the grid lines, and we have the same number of grid lines everywhere. There is another property which is very similar to it, and it is called autofill. Now because you have understood what implicit grids are, so autofill is a bit different, though it is somewhat similar. If I refresh it, now it has created one extra grid item, though we have specified it this CSS 250 1 FR. So it has created 4 equal columns of 250 sizes. It had space, so it has created one more, which is this one, implicit grid it has created. That's the difference between autofill and autofit. Both actually are almost the same, but one creates extra columns if it has space, and autofit doesn't create extra columns. It extends the 250 size to its maximum and divides it among equally. So that's actually the difference. Now here, if I decreases the width of the browser, there is no extra column. Why? Because it didn't have any space for extra columns now. But if in autofill it thinks that there can be an extra column of 250 size, it will create it for you. This is the main difference between the two. Is this fine? So at least now you know how to create a responsive grid in grid CSS using just these values, and autofit may be what you will need most of the times. Autofit, min max, what does this mean? So the width of the column should never be less than this property. Okay, and 1 FR means you can call it 100%, whatever. Okay, is this clear?
Yes.
Now we will cover what CSS properties or custom variables are. Okay, how many of you have used CSS properties, custom properties? Shabas, how many of you have ever used?
But they know what's the function.
Okay.
Texted one.
For ease of creating CSS, let us go to a site called TypeScale. Probably there are some pro features now than the last time I had used it, so I may not be able to copy CSS for now as we have free plans. So let us go back to our CSS. Let me create some markup in the page with some paragraphs and headings. Let us create some headings also. And then some paragraphs. Some UL and LIs. This is okay, fine. Okay, we will create some CSS here. For example, I specify body color red. What does this mean? That anything inside the body will have color of red. If I open it in the browser, so all the text should have red colors. Is this fine? But for some reasons, for example, I want piece to be color gray. What does this mean? All the piece will be gray, like this. But I want, for example, there are some wrappers here. Say wrapper, and it has some div, some piece, and then it has another div, for example left, and here we have also some lorem ipsum. I want this P to be yellow colored and this one to be purple color. What should I do?
Dot wrapper and then greater than P.
Dot wrapper and even all of the P's inside it. So if greater than P, it means immediate children.
Yes, sir.
So color yellow. And if I want the ones dot wrapper dot left, it should be color of purple, for example. Is this fine?
Yes.
So it is expecting like we should. This one is not changing. Why? Maybe there is some class issue. Dot left and P. So left has a P. It is now more specific, that's why it has taken it, the specificity. Okay, this page can be very long. It can have a lot of content, right? So what CSS class variables are, actually in the root you can specify something. So for example, there is a selector called root. Root is actually used for HTML element, HTML tag, for example, this HTML tag. So we will specify root selector, and in it we will create some variables. So for example, let us move this out, or okay. Primary red. We have created, this is dash primary color red, okay, for example. And now in the body I want to use not the red color but just the variable. So what I will do is color. It means in the body the color should be, I can specify this like red, previously we did so, but now we will call it variable dash primary dash color. So what does this mean? Whatever is the variable, this it should be the body color. Where is it? This one. So the same effect it is, everything is red, okay. Now for example, I remove this from the body. I want the div, dot wrapper, then dot left, then P. It should be var color var underscore primary color. What do you expect?
Red.
And which one? Only the left one will have
Left P.
this one. It is going to be this.
What's the advantages of
We are slowly going towards it, okay. So for example, let us type some classes, okay. Or we can call it primary dash text dash color dash text dash color. Let us write something in the, so with red, blue and green. For example, this is one of the color schemes, red, blue, green. Another one is yellow, purple and pink. Red, blue, green and yellow, purple, pink, right?
Yes.
Dash secondary dash text dash color. For example, this is blue, and dash tertiary dash text dash color, and this is green. For example, you have got a design and these are the main colors in your design, so you will specify them like this, right? There can be background colors also or anything. Then we have another one which is yellow, purple and pink. So these are two separate styles for us, for example. Okay, now I just randomly p it has a color of, say for example, this one, blue. So what I will specify, var color, var means variable, it will be evaluated here, and I will use secondary text color, for example, for some reasons, whatever. We can use primary also. This is this clear? So the p should be secondary text color and the ULs should be, for example, or LIs to be precise, LIs can be, let us copy this again, this is tertiary color, sorry, text color. This is fine. So P's are of the secondary color, LIs are of the this color, and the P inside the left is of primary color. And what else we have? H1 and H2 also. Let us give that too. So H2 is, for example, primary color, this one, and H1 is, for example, tertiary color. This is fine? Okay. If I refresh the page, so all of these colors are now of blue, green and red. Blue, green, red. This is one of the color schemes. Is this fine?
Yes.
Now for some reasons we don't want to write a lot of CSS. Okay, and somebody has asked us that I will copy this page so that you can understand. Copy and create a second one. There is paste. Let us create a second page. CSS variables dot to.html, right? We will just copy all the code in it to the second one. This, okay. So this is 2, this is 1. Both are actually the same. Now for some reasons this is that comment we had written yellow, purple and pink. We want to change everything to this, but in accordance with whatever. You will have a sheet of all the P tags, H1, this, whatever. You have all the designs ready. So now will you change everything here?
No, sir.
Where? Just here.
In the root.
Just this one. We need to just change this one. So for example, yellow, purple and pink. So we'll make it this one yellow, this one is purple and this one is pink. Just 3 lines of code we have changed, and if I open it now in the browser, so this is another color scheme and this is another color scheme, the same thing, but just with 3 lines of code we have changed it rather than going into the details and changing them. Is this
Just to change the theme of the
theme? Exactly, theme and whatever. So for example, you have specified dash dash grid. This is a variable gap. For example, you have specified it to be this pixels. Grid dash gap. This is just a variable, okay? 20 pixels, and you have in the whole site you have used this variable as the gap. So you can have a lot of CSS where you will specify in the grid container or in the flexbox container gap 60 pixels, gap 40 pixels, gap whatever. But if you use the variable here, this variable, and client comes up and he says to reduce the whole gaps in the site to say 20 pixels. So if you have used the variable, you will just make one value change and it will be reflected across the whole site. But if you have say used gap independently of the variables, it will be like changing the same 20 or 30 times more than this, right? Okay, if I go, let me CSS, sorry, template monsters is template monster, not template monster, but yes, this is say some theme from WordPress, and we will click on this one on live demo. Okay, you can yourself check such themes. Go to these websites and there will be usually a 3 or 4 color button. So for example, the whole site is blue color. If you click on the red, you might have seen that to change a theme. So if you click on the red one, so the whole site becomes, I mean the button colors, the text color, everything becomes red. If you click on blue, it will become blue. It will if you click on it, for example, any other color, it will be of the same color. So what behind the under the hood it does the same thing. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us go to floats again. If you remember what the floats lecture was quickly. So this was a float, and if I open this CSS, so we have specified the width as 960, the main wrapper, and the left one is 15% and the right one is 84%, and there is a margin left of 1%, right? So 84 plus 1, 85, and this one is 15, so it becomes 100%. So for example, I will open it again. I will make it say, for example, if the margin left is 2%, 3% rather, and I refresh the float, what does it do? Why it has come down?
Because no space.
No space. Okay, so I will the total is 87 now. 87 plus 15, so it is more than 100%. What I can do is I can reduce the width of the right, so it will be this. Now it is okay, because this is 3% margin left, this is 15%, and this is 82%. So it is total of 100%. That's why it's again in the place. So we are continuously doing this calculation. And if you remember, in one of the responsive classes, we had our calculations ourselves as well, doing some math.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So for this we have a calc property. What is calc? Calc is like if I make it margin left is 5%, so it again will come down, right? But if I specify this one, now it will be 80%, so again it will be back to track, this one, right? So if I specify calc, calc is a calculator function, you can call it whatever. So it will be 100%, minus 5%. Okay, but not 100%. This is, we already have 15 here. We want the left to be 15%, so it will be 100 minus 15%,
plus 5.
and we will specify one more bracket like this, and minus 5%. Yes. So 100 minus 15 will be 85. 85 is this, and minus 5%. That is, now it is just okay. What difference has it brought? We are not again and again going to change this width value. It will be automatically calculated. 100% minus 15%. 15% is this.
The left container.
Yeah, and minus 5%. Okay, so this is that there is to it. You can, it is now up to your creativity. For example, whatever you want. If you, for example, there is a flex container or anything in floats rather, if you want the one of the columns to be of particular width, say this one, so you can use calc function here also. Today we also studied CSS variables or custom properties. So here let us define some properties here. For example, margin dash value, this is equal to, by default it is going to be 5%. Like this is fine. And left is 15% and right is 80%. So right is going to be calc, the same value we can specify it here. It is this one. And the left is 15%, so we can call it var and this is margin value. So here we can use, wherever you have to use the variable, what you will do is encapsulate it inside this var function. What it is, dash margin value, calc 100% minus var dash left minus this, and this is dash right. Okay, now if you want to specify this right here, so width will be, what will be, Shabas? Var dash right, and we have to remove this now, or we can use it margin dash left as left, margin dash value. So again var dash margin dash value, and the left one will be width 15. This is the left, so the left is var dash left. Let us try if it is working. It is working fine. It's fine. Now if, for example, for some reasons I have to change everything, so what are your expectations? You will only change everything just here. For example, I want the margin to be 1 and the left to be 10% and the and calc already is being determined via this.
Yes, sir.
So in just two places I've made the changes, and here we have 1% margin, and then the width is gotten there. So today what we learned was something very special. CSS variables, calc attribute for calculations, and we also studied some of the remaining items which we had left in Grid CSS. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.